This is Brian Meador from East Carolina University. You are listening to the Sports Objective, the official, unofficial podcast of the Pirates.
Welcome into the Sports Objective. Very special night here on Wednesday. Hopefully you're having a great week so far. And certainly we're very excited. Huge show. We have Matt Doherty. We'll talk about his book. Coach Doherty is on with us. We'll be on in just a second. And we have Patrick Johnson from 94.3 The Game. Lots to talk about. Bubba and is here. Kyle Barber, how are you, man?
What's going on, Dave? Sitting here on a Wednesday night, worn out, tired from work, but ready to talk to Coach here about his book and his coaching career.
No doubt about it. With us right now, Coach Matt Doherty, of course, his book, Rebound from Pain to Passion. Coach, how are you?
Well, I was doing pretty good until I heard Kyle talk. I mean, I don't like that energy, Kyle. Like, are you going to bring it? Or like either be all in or don't be in. Like, you know what I mean? I can't have you half-assing this show.
That's pretty much how I go through life, Coach. I half-ass everything. It's kind of my gift.
Coach, we have a debate going on right now that he won't run. He won't run on the football field in Greenville at Dowdy Ficklin. He'd rather do pencil rolls. So we're having that debate it's an ongoing debate. I told him he was much better to jog it, even with his bad knees, even with his weight on him.
Look, I'll start rolling. I go downhill. So you just give me on the field, get me rolling. My weight will just carry me. Gravity, it'll work.
I think we need to have Coach Doherty there too, because I think his intensity, his passion, maybe that's what you need, is to have somebody coaching you, Kyle, through that. Because I just don't see, as much as I believe in you, my friend, the 200 yards of pencil rolls or whatever it would be brutal to me. I know that for sure. So I'm real mad. I'll admit that. I'd rather run any day.
I got a question, Dave. He said going downhill. Like I thought that the football field in Greenville was. I mean, there may be a crown to it.
If you're going down.
That's what I was about to ask, Coach. If he's going to start on the crown of the field and roll toward the sideline.
Indeed, yes.
And then walk back to the crown and do it all over again.
He's got to go uphill.
That's right. But look, this whole pencil roll thing Dave started. Dave has started this crap about pencil roll versus running. Look, I'd rather do neither. I say what everybody wants to see. Well, really, nobody gives a damn about anything we're talking about right now. They want to hear about Coach Doherty's book. But here's the truth. What the people want to see is me and Dave in a sumo match, and I'll put the money on me if Dave wants to go ahead and take the challenge. Forget the pencil rolls and the running. Let's sumo, Dave.
I've actually lost 30 pounds, so I've lost my sumo.
Well, we'll get you a fat suit. We'll get you a fat suit.
All right. Well, let's bring in Coach now, because again, he's more important than pencil rolling, running. I guess so 300s or whatever it be. But Coach, honored to have you on. We want to talk about your career, certainly your book. I'm looking forward to reading your book called Rebound from Pain to Passion. I think that something I was thinking about today, Coach, is with what everybody's been going with COVID. The book title was perfect for our society, where we're going through. We've had a lot of pain, and I think that even though I haven't had a chance to get a copy, I think we've got a copy now of your book. We're going to read it, but just the title alone made me think about what we're going through with the society, with COVID and other things, with social justice or whatever we call. But certainly with everything going on, I thought it was perfect that we have you on tonight.
Well, thank you, Dave. Life is about rebounding. There's not anybody that goes through life that hasn't dealt with some kind of setback. And so, I thought the book was about me trying to rebound from losing my job at North Carolina in 2003. The leadership lessons I learned. I went on a leadership journey in 2003 because, when you lose your job or something goes bad, it's easy to blame others, point a finger and blame others. And Roy Williams would always say, when you're pointing a finger, there are three pointing back at you. So I wanted to take accountability for my part and learn how I could have done that better. And as I went on this leadership journey, it really blew me away, because leadership is the most important topic, I think, in the world, but it's not formally taught, because everything rises and falls on the capacity of the person in charge. And you see governments, you see companies, you see universities, you see football teams. I mean, you see basketball programs, and that one person can make all the difference in the world. And so it fascinates me, and that's why I talk about it. It's my passion now. I work as an executive coach. I work for Vistage, which is an executive coaching firm, and also do some private work with my Doherty coaching practice. And I really get a lot of fulfillment out of coaching. I'm just not coaching basketball players now. I'm coaching business leaders, and everyone's dealing with the same thing. It's recruiting good talent, training it, creating a good culture, and trying to have everybody work as one. So no matter if you're a basketball coach or you're CEO of a bank, we all deal with the same issues.
Coach, is there a common personality trait that you see amongst all leaders, or at least most leaders? Is there one thing you could pick out about someone's personality, or about most good leaders' personalities that just kind of shines through, like this something you see across the board?
Well, that's a great question. I think some people, and I thought this when my leadership was questioned. I thought, well, maybe I'm not a good leader, but leadership is a learned behavior. Okay. So I think that anybody with any personality type, if you go by the DISC assessment, I'm a DI, which is a driver influencer, but 69% of the population are S's, which means they're a steady state. They don't like change. Well, there are a lot of people that are S's that are good leaders, but I think if you look at a quality, to me, if you're talking about the best leaders, I think that a couple things shine through is servant leadership. Will you put your people before yourself? And I think the other thing is being authentic, being real. Sometimes to admit that you made a mistake, to laugh at yourself. I think some of the best leaders have those two characteristics.
Yeah, particularly one that stuck out to me is what you just said about putting your people before yourself. I agree with that 100%. I mean, because if you want people, in a business environment to work hard for you, you got to me. If you feel like your boss cares about you and wants what's best for not just the company but for you personally, you're going to work harder for him.
Yeah. So you've been going through life, you said, kind of half-assed, so you don't really have a boss you like to work for? Is that what you're telling me?
That's just my personality type. I'm basically just BSing. But no, actually we just had a change at work, and I quite like my new boss, so it's a good thing.
Oh, you're sucking up now, Kyle. Yeah, the new guy's in town. You are kissing butt. That's pretty good. That's a good move, Kyle. Veteran move.
Absolutely.
All right, so Coach, take us back to your childhood, and then the beginning of your high school days, because I know you had the luxury to play for a guy like Bob McKillop over the last several years, and really back into my childhood, watching Coach McKillop's teams at Davidson. I've really enjoyed that, and now I take my son to the games as we're only about 20 to 25 minutes from the Davidson campus. So just talk about Coach McKillop's influence. I know it's very strong in your life.
Well, I talk a lot about Bob McKillop in my book. Huge influence. And you think about coaches and the impact they have on the lives of young people. It's powerful. And so when there's an abuse of trust it's criminal, and you've seen that with doctors at Michigan State and, and other areas. Gymnastics seems to be fairly prevalent. But Bob McKillop influenced me at a young age. I got to know him in 6th grade, and he was the high school coach at Holy Trinity High School. My sisters went there, and we'd play in this park near my house, Prospect Park. And, he was very serious, very competitive, very intense. And every time I stepped on the court, I wanted to impress him. And my goal was to make the varsity as a freshman. Nobody had done that before. We had good teams. He had good teams, good players. So, his practices when they had tryouts were some of the hardest things I've ever done. But I wasn't going to give in. I wasn't going to show weakness. I made the team. And, part of a really good teams, we won the Catholic championship in Long Island and New York City. And the second year, we had another great year. Then Bob left to go to Davidson for a year and then came back to high school in Long Island to a rival high school. And when he got the job at Davidson, I was doing the radio. He hired me, and we had a blast, even though we weren't very good. We were 4-24 our first year, then like 9-19. But I love working for him. We worked hard, we played hard, and he's a great friend, mentor. My wife and he and his wife went out to dinner the other night. We live 10 minutes. I'm in Mooresville, so we're 10 minutes away. But a huge impact on my life.
Coach, another person that was big in your life is Coach Dean Smith. Obviously, those of us in North Carolina, I've always thought a lot of him, and just want to get your take on what was it that brought you to UNC Chapel Hill? And I mean, we know how great Coach is, but what was like the selling point for you to come to UNC?
I think that I fell in love with Carolina basketball in '76 when they went to the Olympics, and he had 4 players on the roster from North Carolina. And then in '77, they went to the Final Four, and they had a freshman named Michael Corrin, who quickly became my favorite player and one of my favorite people. I just could see myself, I dreamed about playing in that system, wearing Carolina blue, winning a national championship. And I knew that he would appreciate me for what I could do, and I wouldn't be penalized for what I couldn't do. And I knew what I could do and what I couldn't do. I wasn't a great athlete. I was willing to accept the role of being a role player. And John Beilein, the coach at Michigan, would say, star in your role. So I try to be the best role player. And that I knew would get me playing time. I wasn't going to be the leading scorer on the team. But if I did my job, I'd get to play a lot and we'd have a chance to win a national championship. And fortunately, that's the way it played out.
I wanted to talk. That's another question I had for you. I know that one thing that was unfair to Coach, and even as a kid, I knew that growing up in Durham, was the very fact of they always said he's a great coach, but you always heard that. And you guys had a chance to go down to New Orleans. You beat Georgetown in 1982. What was that feeling like, knowing you were talking about leadership, but a man that had put so much time in that program? What was it, about 2 decades at that point? And they kept saying he can't win the big one, but he'd been to so many tournaments, so many ACC championships, regular season, and the tournament. He cut down so many nets. I thought that was so unfair, but you guys win the big one in New Orleans at the Superdome. What kind of feeling was that for the players to give that gift to him?
I think it was more important for us to win the championship for him than it was for him to win the championship. I think soon thereafter we won the game. He says, well, now am I any different a coach than I was before the game? Michael Jordan makes the shot. What if Michael missed the shot and they won the game? Does that make Coach any less a coach? But that's obviously the media, the fans. He is so grounded he was so grounded as knowing who he was, that didn't faze him. Not winning a championship did not faze him in the way he led us. I don't know if he ever talked about it. He was all about process, and it's a lot like we hear Nick Saban now. It's the process. You got to, play each play to the best of your ability, repetition and practice, build winning habits. And then over a course of a 40-minute game or a 30-game season, if we have good enough talent and we do what we're supposed to do, we'll win. And we did. And sometimes the best teams don't always win the championship. Our best team, the best team I was on, is 1984 with Kenny Smith and Brad Doherty, Sam Perkins, Michael Jordan. We had a better bench, but we dealt with injuries. Kenny Smith broke his wrist. Michael Jordan got in some foul trouble. So we did not win. And, when it's one game and you're out, a team could get hot, you get tight. We lose to Indiana, but we were the best team in the country.
Yeah, that's certainly, you talk about that. That's a great point that I always tell people, just like building the team, that not always the best team wins. But one question I had for you, as far as your coaching time there, you come back and you coach at North Carolina. I remember during that time, there were people that asked me, while I was coaching at the time, and they asked me if I would come back to my high school, which I'm actually living again in the town I grew up in my teenage years. And I said, I feel like that it would be a really tough job for me, because I would put too much. This is me personally, that I would put too much pressure on myself, because I want my alma mater to win so badly, that I would want them to win the state championship so badly. For example, is that something for you? Did you put too much pressure on yourself looking back, or do you think, or is it? I know that's the job at North Carolina is very difficult.
I can see that. I can see that. Why you would feel that way. I took the job because I didn't want somebody outside the family taking the job. And I was told by Michael Jordan. He said, hey, if you don't take this job, Coach Smith will probably go outside the family and hire Rick Majerus. That's why I made the decision I did.
Wow.
It's plain simple. I didn't want somebody outside the family taking the job. And I do think that, looking back, Coach Smith was so smart and such a great recruiter that he knew what he was doing in saying to Michael, hey, Michael, tell Matt that this is what we're going to do. And that might push the button. That's how smart Coach Smith is. And I believe that's why he did it. And I'm not saying it wouldn't have been true. Like, I think that was a natural, okay, Roy turned it down. Larry Brown, they went through Coach Brown, Eddie Fogler, George Karl, and then me. And if it wasn't me, it was probably going to be Rick Majerus. And I just didn't want that for the program.
Coach, even though things didn't turn out like you wanted it to at North Carolina, are you glad you had a chance to coach your alma mater, or do you kind of wish you'd have stayed put at Notre Dame?
That's a tough question. I mean, I go back and forth, and I said this recently. Looking back, I should have stayed at Notre Dame. Part of me is like, if I was offered the job in March or April, like Hubert, then yeah, take it. But to take it in July, I took it July 11th.
Wow.
See, people don't think about that. Why did Coach Guthridge retire in June? That was a weird time to retire. And then they went through a week of Roy Williams. And then by the time they went through me, my press conference was July 11th. Well, that's in the middle of recruiting. And I look back, and as a result, I didn't get to know my players that well. I didn't have time to spend in a casual stress-free environment to get to know the secretaries. I had 4 secretaries. I didn't have the time to digest the impact of me bringing my staff with me and not retaining the previous staff. If I could have had time to manage all those changes, and that's a big part of my book is managing change, I would have I had a better chance of staying on past 3 years. But those first 90 days on the job, that's when opinions are formed. And I got the job July 11th. I brought my staff with me. I didn't retain the previous staff. The players weren't around to get to know them. I didn't really get to know them till August when school started. I was there one night. The next day I'm on the road recruiting. And there's 4 secretaries that have been there an average of 20, 22 years apiece. And I'm on the road recruiting, and they're now having to be in an awkward relationship with new assistant coaches who had no real ties to Carolina basketball. It's bad dynamic. So July 11th, if I was, I wouldn't take it if it was July 11th. I would stay there. If it was April, early April, yeah, I'd probably take it.
You mentioned about, not being able to get a chance to really get to know your players before you got out on the road recruiting, et cetera. How was the buy-in? I mean, was it tough to get the guys to buy in to you and your staff in year one, or did once you got in the gym and started coaching them, did they buy in? Do you feel like you got the buy-in right away?
That's a good question. Joe Forte did a recent podcast on the Carolina Insider, and he talked a lot about that. And then he talked about me and said nice things. Since then, Joe and I have talked about 3 times. And I hadn't talked to Joe since he left Carolina in 2001, and really had good conversations. Had I gotten the job in April, I could have spent time with Joe and Brendan and Jason Capel and everybody in a stress-free environment where I could sit down and get to know, hey, what was it like growing up for you? What's the thing that you fear the most? What's the thing you like the most? How do you want me to coach you? Well, Joe was used to Morgan Wooten and Bill Guthridge. They're both older gentlemen, didn't really raise their voice. And then I come in as a young coach, only been a head coach 1 year, fiery, intense. And I say this when I give public talks, your biggest strength becomes your biggest weakness. My biggest strength is I was intense and driven. Well, if I become too intense, I become too hard on the players. So understanding, having a self-awareness and staying inside that circle is important. And if I had the time to talk to Joe and say, hey, Joe, how do you want me to coach you? Like when I was at Notre Dame, Troy Murphy and I had a good relationship, and I was on Troy pretty hard in the beginning. And I kept comparing him to Ray LaFrance and Scott Pollard at Kansas and, trying to motivate him. And he came to me one day, he says, hey, coach, you don't have to say that. You don't have to compare me to those guys. Just coach me. I'm like, okay. That's the kind of relationship you get to develop because I got that job on April 1st.
Yeah, no doubt. And what you're saying there about how to coach people and finding out what makes guys tick, it goes back to leadership. And I think one of the smartest things I heard somebody say one time is somebody was saying you got to treat everybody the same. And they responded, I wish I could remember who it was because the quote was, no, you treat everybody equal. You don't treat everybody the same.
That's right. That's right. That's 100% right. Some players need a kick in the butt. Some players need an arm around them. And you've got to get to know that. And, and manage them differently, lead them differently. But you've got to lead by connecting emotionally with your players. And again, I didn't have the time to do that when I got the job.
No. We had a comment from a viewer, Dave.
Yeah, Johnny Gardner said Jimmy Johnson said that. That's what I guess.
Okay,
he said.
all right. Well, Jimmy Johnson. All right. Thanks, Johnny.
NASCAR Jimmy Johnson? No, I'm kidding.
No, I'm pretty sure that's not the Jimmy Johnson.
Coach,
I can coach NASCAR. Turn left.
That's
Coach,
right. Go
you
back
talk
and
about-
turn left.
You talk about managing changes, Coach. Talk about managing personalities. Obviously, you had 4 different Division I head jobs, but spending time at the at Kansas, with Roy Williams for 7 years, I believe it was. Obviously, at Kansas as well as at North Carolina, you're going to be getting some of the top talent in the country. So, and this certainly takes place with any job, but even more so at those institutions where you have such top flight talent and just the personalities involved. Just talking about, we're kind of already going down that road. Talk about what you learned from Coach McKillop, Coach Williams, and also Coach Smith about managing personalities.
Well, I think that Coach Smith was probably the best. You like the light? You see how I mean, now it's just like, man, I needed that light. I needed the makeup artist. Coach, I think Coach McKillop talks about coaching scars. And I've used that phrase in the book. We all have coaching scars, and we may have parental scars where we say things to players, to our children, hopefully not, but in the heat of the moment that you regret saying. And so as they're coming out of your mouth, you try to catch it and stuff it back in. There's a good follow on Twitter, a guy named Tim Kite, Kight, and he talks about a formula, E plus R equals O. And where the E is the event, R is your reaction, and O is the outcome. The only thing we control is the R. So if a player gets frustrated and throws his hands up in the air, and we don't like that, well, we could react a certain way and just make it worse. Or we could ignore it at the time and then circle back when he's calmed down, that player's calmed down, and then address it. That's the art of coaching. The science of coaching is the X's and the O's. The art of coaching is the managing the emotions and the personalities in the heat of the battle.
No question.
You mentioned, well, the coach just said something that made me remember something another coach said about, not reacting to players getting frustrated immediately, et cetera. Ricky Bussell, former head coach, football coach down at Louisiana Lafayette, longtime assistant at Virginia Tech before that. We had him on one time, and I asked him if there's one thing he could do over in his head coaching career, what would he do? He said he would never let assistants handle discipline issues with players. It would always be handled by the head coach, because he had a player walk over an assistant coach mishandling something that ended up being an NFL star. He wouldn't say who, but he said that's the key thing is player management with discipline issues. Lots of times the head coach is the assistant coach is more emotionally involved with coaching those players one-on-one, so they need to separate from and let the head coach handle discipline. I don't know if you agree with that philosophy or not.
When I was at North Carolina, Coach Guthridge handled a lot of the discipline. If you missed a class, you had a 7 a.m., you met Coach Guthridge. And he was the one that would let you know you had a 7 a.m. On the court, or if there was another issue, you'd meet, So, I think that's case by case.
Right.
Coach Smith and Coach Guthridge were so aligned, it was almost like the same I had my assistant at FAU, Rex Walters, handle a lot of the discipline. So I think that's case by case. That's my opinion.
Gotcha.
And coach, there would obviously be somebody, maybe some people are better at it. That's an obvious statement than others. So that would be why maybe sometimes the assistant coach would be better than the head coach. Not saying you, I'm just saying in general.
Well, I think that it comes down to trust, right? And alignment. If a assistant coach like Coach Smith was out recruiting or, on the road doing a at a convention, or, if Coach Guthridge was there and you did something wrong, you're not going to wait for Coach Smith. And then that would make Coach Guthridge weak in your eyes. And Coach Smith empowered Coach Guthridge. So, we respected Coach Guthridge. Joe Forte and I were talking the other day about 7 a.m. study halls, where you had to meet at 7 a.m. at the locker room. And Coach Guthridge was already there an hour and running, and he's in a sweat. And if he was really mad at you, make you run. So I did the same thing. 7 a.m. study halls or 7 a.m. runs. And Rex Walters handled them for me. And Rex would get them in his car at Boca Raton at FAU. And he said one time the players were complaining in the car about having to be up and running. And Rex just let the car kept driving, instead of like it being 1 mile, 2 miles. The guys kept complaining, so Rex just kept going 5 miles. He says, you can keep complaining. The more you complain, the more I'm going to drive. And I shut him up, So, those you've got to have discipline, and it can't be abusive, because then you lose the respect, you lose the impact. But we've all been disciplined by my parents, my coaches, because you've got to, get the behavior that you want as a parent, as a coach. And that takes discipline.
Coach, I got to ask you this, and I don't know. Dave might have been itching to ask you, but I beat you to the trigger, Dave. There was a rumor several years ago. I don't remember which coaching search it was, if you had been to SMU yet or what. I don't remember when it was. If it was when we hired Coach Stokes, Coach McCarthy. It's hard to remember. But you were going to be the next head coach of East Carolina in basketball. In fact, I don't know if you knew this, Coach. You purchased the house in Greenville.
Yeah, I understand. I get these tax statements every year, and it kind of makes me mad. But I'm just waiting to see when the market peaks. I'm close to selling it.
Have you heard that rumor? Have you heard that rumor before?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, it's flattering, but no truth to it. So that's the funny thing about sports, or anything now. Heck, rumors fly on anything.
It's
well,
always
we have finally confirmed it after all these years. There was absolutely no truth to that rumor at the time.
No truth to it. Yeah.
And if it is true, I have some real estate agents that'll be glad to sell the house. It's a good market for you, Coach. Now, if you want to get rid of the house,
yeah,
I'll text it to you.
Okay.
Coach, want to remind everybody to get your book, Rebound from Passion, Pain to Passion. I know that the leadership, it's been great to have you. Hopefully we'll have you back on again, definitely during basketball season, talk more. And
where can we get the book? Is there? Do you have a website? Is it available on Amazon?
You can get it on Amazon, or you can go to my website, rebound-book.com.
All right.
Yeah,
right,
thank you.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to have you on, and hopefully everybody will buy the book.
I appreciate it. Yep. Have a great night.
All right. Take care, Coach. Bye-bye. All right, that's Coach Matt Doherty. We go from Matt Doherty to PJ. Patrick Johnson, ladies and gentlemen, the P-Man. 94.3 The Game. How are you, my friend?
I'm well, middle age, and that's why you wear black on gray and everything. That's the sign of middle age, so I'm told. So that's what I'm doing. How are you guys?
Patrick,
I thought you were Johnny Cash or the Godfather.
Let's be honest, Patrick. I'm a big boy like you. It's nothing to do with
Right.
that. Just because we're fat. That's why we wear black.
Well, no, I have gray. I don't have just all black. I'm not doing all black. And by the way,
is slimming too.
I'm getting COVID heavy, so I've got to get on the train here. So we'll discuss that at a later time, Kyle. You and I can get on the training, back getting moving again.
I challenged Dave to a sumo match earlier. Maybe how about you and me?
I've lost. You picked the wrong time. I've lost 30 pounds. I've lost 30 pounds as of today.
I'll tell you guys this, and hello to Bubba too. You're talking a lot, Bubba. I'm going to say this. It's kind of fashionable, but I'm going to identify as thin. So that's my new thing now. That's we are what we are now, what we say we are. So I'm identifying as svelte is how I'm looking at it, Kyle.
Oh, there you go. Maybe I'll do the same. Actually, I'm very muscular.
Yeah, that's how you should identify as muscular.
I have the physique of Lex Luger in 1989 in my head.
Hey, Kyle, have you watched any of the? It's interesting now. Wrestling sucks, but wrestling culture is probably hotter than it's ever been.
Are you going to ask me if I watched A&E or Dark Side of the Ring?
Well, both. Have you checked out both?
I don't have Vice.
Okay.
So I haven't ever watched
Dark Side of the Ring is awesome.
Yeah, Dark Side looks really good, and I'm a big Cornette fan. So
do you have Amazon Prime, Kyle?
I do.
Okay, the first season's available on Prime for free.
Okay,
and second and third, there's their third season now. The second and third season, you can buy the whole season or episodes or whatever, but eventually I'm sure they'll be on Prime. But the first season is definitely on Prime. So if you have a Prime membership, then you can get that. That I tell you what, that's one of my favorite go-to documentaries, kind of like 30 for 30 with ESPN. I love Dark Side of the Ring. I think it's fabulous.
Yeah, it seems like, and I haven't watched it. I'm going to now that I know I have access to it. But I love Cornette, and since he's involved with it, I'm very familiar with it. Off the top of my head, I know I need to watch the New Jack episode with him just passing away, and I was a huge New Jack fan. Pillman, I need to watch the Pillman episode.
Pillman one's really good, especially the first one's really good. And I'll tell you this, I've liked the A&E docs. I've really liked the first two. Yeah, I really love the first two. Really, the first three. I thought the Savage thing, even though a lot of people said it was a hit piece, I actually thought I was entertained by it. In their own way, they've all been entertaining. Here's the ironic cross section this week, though, Kyle. You have the Ultimate Warrior on A&E and Dark Side, I believe, this week. So it's Ultimate Warrior week in the Pantheon.
I would imagine Dark Side will be accurate. A&E with their close relationship with WWE. A&E with their close relationship with the WWE and the way the Warriors' life ended with him on the good side of WWE. It'll be a spin piece. It'll be fluff.
Well, the reason I bring this up, and a few years ago, I had the privilege to talk to Lex Luger back in Raleigh when Dave and I were at Curtis Media earning that big money. And big money. And it was like WCW, those big money contracts. And what was really interesting was how humble, and because I'd always heard he'd been, kind of aloof / bordered on arrogant.
Was that after his health issues?
Yeah, it was after his health issues. It was after all the other mess he'd gone through with Elizabeth. But he was candid in talking about it. But I bring that up because when you see him on the Savage doc on A&E, it's stark how gaunt he is now.
Yes. Yeah, he can't lift weights. I mean, he physically is just, he's a tiny guy now, and it doesn't even look like Lex Luger. But
I met him at the wrestling convention in Charlotte in 2007, August of 2007. And I was telling Kyle this before. Same thing with if you meet you, Bubba, and Kyle, you think that you're a big Pirate fan, and you find out there are people that are bigger fans than you, or it could be Andy Griffith's show, or this was
right.
I mean, they're buying. I had a friend of mine that invited me. He spent $2,000 at the convention. That's the kind of hardcore fans you find out. But anyway, the only time I actually met Lex, and he actually had to kind of prop himself up at that point.
Yeah,
he still had a little bit of definition. It kind of reminded you that was, like I said, August of 2007. But as you said, as the years have gone by, we're all getting older. But in this particular case, because I know with the steroids and other drugs and things, I mean, he came through he was hotter. He was hotter than anything back then when he first came up, and during that era that they could do no wrong, and then Mother Nature, it's like time was not kind to him now.
Yeah, the other thing, and I would just say this, I tell you guys who to book, but I'm sure you guys could get him on. I mean, he'd be fabulous. I think because we're about to enter the silly season in the summer, and
yeah,
it's the same thing you guys run into.
Well, we had Nikita on, and we know Nikita.
And I've not had the privilege to talk to him, but he's fabulous. But I mean, I'd say I'd put the most surprising interviews I've ever done are Luger, again, because I was under the impression he was somewhat arrogant and aloof, but he was actually fabulous and honest. And then Mike Tyson. And I wasn't like the guy in Canada talking jive to Tyson. I called him champ, and you do all the right things. But Mike was great. And he was very honest. That was when he was promoting his one-man show, and it was a big hit. So I guess there's a Tyson doc coming up in less than a week on ABC. We'll see how that paints everything.
And a movie.
Yeah, and a movie. And I think but those were just two of the cool kind of interviews over the years.
I think one of our most surprising guests, and not so much that we expected him to be an ass, but we had Charlie Ward on, and Charlie Ward stayed on the show with us for an hour.
Yeah,
just no East Carolina ties at all. We just talked football and basketball. Charlie Ward was super cool.
So my dad, is a Duke fan before it was cool to be a Duke fan, and I'll tell you how tried and true is. He roots for ECU too. I don't want to say he does it because he went there and he got his master's from there and all that, but he was a Duke football fan. And during those 0-12, he was hauling himself from Kinston to Durham or Raleigh to Durham, and so I went one time in middle school, and it poured down rain, and this was hardly anybody at Wallace Wade, but Charlie Ward, and it was Florida State trials. It's like the only time he ever played in Durham, and guys are out there in the slop, and they're slow, and the footing's not good. Charlie Ward was just as quick as a hiccup still on the wet turf. It was one of it's in person. He and Iverson are the two quickest people I've ever seen. It's amazing.
Yeah, he was a great guest, and what a great player, and what a weird story. Win the Heisman Trophy and then play in the NBA.
Yeah, with Hubert Davis, tying us back to UNC, and
absolutely.
So, Patrick, I might have asked you this before.
Yeah,
and Dave also. Best and worst. You mentioned interview. Best experience meeting a pro wrestler. Worst experience meeting a pro wrestler.
Pro wrestler.
Yeah, pro wrestler. Best and worst experience meeting a pro wrestler.
Go ahead, Dave. Your show, baby. You go ahead.
No, well, yeah. I mean, you and I both have. I think the one that it was really cool was I was working at the station at the time, 95.3 The Rock on the Outer Banks, and I'll never forget 2001.
By the way, Dave and I have worked at the same company 3 or 4 times. Yeah, maybe not necessarily at the same time.
At the same time, yeah.
But Dave, I got there right after Dave was out there. I'll tell you this.
They kicked me out. They fired me so they could hire PJ. So
yeah, the ownership there. The ownership there makes other places we've worked at that we may have mentioned already seem like free spenders. That was a chintzy situation out there at OBX, to say the least.
So we had.
Go ahead.
We had the opportunity. There was a wrestling match. I believe they had it at Manio High School, independent show, and I got a chance to meet Ricky Morton from the Rock and Roll Express, and he came in the studio, and he really I expected him. To be honest, I expected that day. I said, "Man, this is going to be a difficult interview," but I was pleasantly surprised. He was probably the most laid back guy. I know I believe from Tennessee, but he was really cool. Like, he loved rock and roll music, so we had that in common. He loved racing. Of course, he loved wrestling. So we had that was probably the easiest. That was the easiest one. I haven't interviewed that many wrestlers, but he was definitely very, very. That was the one that comes first to mind.
Let me tell you something. In 1986 and 1987, Ricky Morton could have had any woman between the ages of 16 and 60 in the Carolinas. I'm telling you right now.
This is Sports Objective After Dark. I'm worried about.
It's true, man. Ricky Morton. I'm telling you, you go back and get on YouTube, or I wouldn't even suggest Peacock because everything's edited, so you don't get the true reaction. But you go back and get on YouTube, and you watch Ricky Morton's the reaction of the ladies in the audience when Ricky Morton and Robert came to Ricky Morton. Good God, he was over with the ladies in 86 and 87.
So the summer of '99, I was the second to the great Josh Wetzel, now the voice of the Rochester AAA team, and the Buffalo basketball team, University of Buffalo basketball team. Josh is one of the most fabulous broadcasters and most talented baseball broadcasters on the planet, and should have been in the major league decades ago. But Josh, I was his second on the Kinston Indians radio network that summer. And he let me do a few pregame interviews. And the one he let me do was when they had wrestling night and Ricky Morton was there. And so I got Ricky Morton to cut the greatest promo. And we only had because it's only like a 10 or 15 minute pregame. We went over because the interview was just that great. I mean, he called, Vince McMahon and Eric Bischoff. I mean, it was great. And it was at the height of the Monday Night Wars, and it was fabulous. All of them have been great. About a year ago, we interviewed Roman Reigns, and I was shocked how cool Roman Reigns was. I've interviewed the Hardys. Matt's great, plays along. Big Show's great. The worst, and I didn't really interview him. I tried to interview him, and he wouldn't let me do it, was Alberto Del Rio. Who's proven to be an awful human. And, it was just had a fishy handshake. I didn't care for him. His second, the guy managing him, was Ricardo Rodriguez. He was fabulous. He was apologetic. He was like, man, if we could do it, or if I could do it, I would. He was awesome. But a lot of those guys, and I get it. I think when you work at that WWE thing, I've come to learn later that, you didn't deviate from your radio schedule. That was a big no-no within the company. I thought you were just going to ask me about the worst interview ever. The worst interview ever was Ian Anderson, the singer for.
Yes.
Yeah. God, pretentious and awful. It was like interviewing myself. It was just so bad, but it was what it was.
I'll tell you the worst interview, not because they were a bad person, but because he was shy. I was stationed in Rocky Mount. I was working at, and I had a chance to interview Robert Cool Bell from Kool and the Gang. That's where Cool comes from.
Right.
And the guy was the nicest guy on the planet, but it was the longest 7 minutes of my life. I remember how long it was. And I told the guys before we did the show, we came together, the story of, they were asking about interviews and stuff. And I told them about how literally every single question I had was one word answers. Like for 7 minutes. That's very like I give you a chance to say something, and we bring P-Man on, and we know that he's going to tell stories. It's going to be great. It's going to be fun. The personality. It wasn't he was a bad guy. He was just very shy. Right. And so that was really disappointing. But I am happy to say that it wasn't he was a jerk or, like you said, pretentious. It was just he was not the kind of guy that you bring on a show to interview, and that's okay because he's a great musician and a great band and one of my all-time favorites. So let's shift gears if we can. We wanted to have you on to not talk about good or bad interviews, but we want to talk about baseball, talk about the state of Pirate Nation, if you will. And I tell you what, we're going to start off because baseball is red hot. We're in the last week of the season. We have USF coming up this weekend. Want to get your take on the Pirates as far as on the baseball diamond to start off.
Well, let's start with today. I think the big news, obviously, is what the NCAA has decided. I don't know how much you guys talked about that at the open or if you jumped right in with Coach Doherty, but
we'll wait for you.
Yeah, I think I'm not surprised, but I'm not, I didn't think it was going to be a slam dunk. I thought there'd be more of a cry for it. It might be something they would do over the weekend. But look, I give the NCAA credit, who's notorious for being inflexible, for actually pivoting here. And it wasn't like this was a hard thing to adjudicate. You just go with whatever the local state rules are. And it may be a case, look, Stanford's going to have 200 if they wind up as a host. Fine, let them. I'm not educated enough to know what's going on in Oregon or Washington, so I don't know what Gonzaga is going to have. And I'm sure Eugene's got pretty strict codes up there in Oregon. But, I think everywhere else it's open the gates. Here we go. I think you're going to see that. I think it's fabulous. I don't, Indiana's a pretty loose state. I'm not sure what it's like there in South Bend because that's a college town and it's Notre Dame and it's the ACC and everything and it's private. And that's a potential matchup with ECU, I believe, if they were seeding this thing this weekend as far as the super regional. But look, I think it's fabulous. I think, a lot of people, and Dave, I'm sure you guys, Kyle, Bubba, you got to quit talking so much and let me get my stuff in here. But I'll tell you this. I know guys and girls that were going to make the trip down to Clearwater this weekend because they thought it was going to be the only time they were going to see the team play in person this year, or the last time they were going to get to see the team play in person this year. So, I think a lot of those trips are maybe people are going to eat the $30-some tickets and, stick around and try to get regional tickets now, which I think is great. And I think that gives ECU a fabulous home field advantage, and I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, we asked Coach O Sunday night on Extra Innings if with his ties in the past of with the NCAA if he had any inside knowledge if it was going to change, and he indicated it just might, and here we are a few days later and it did.
Again, he would know because, as you say, he's run regional sites before, and is connected at that level. I just was looking at it. It's the NCAA. They never do anything that makes sense. I do think they get a little bit of a tough bag sometimes, but they do it all in the name of, it's kind of what you guys were talking about. They're not worried about treating everybody the same. They want to treat everybody equal in their eyes.
Yeah.
And then they end up not treating everybody the same. In this case, I think they've treated everybody the same.
Well,
and I think that's fair.
To me, it makes it easier on them. They don't have to make a decision now. You're leaving it up to the state.
Here's the thing, and you'll appreciate this, Kyle, tremendously. So a few years ago, when my dad got the gig at then Peace College, in the interim between the old AD and him being hired as the AD, the softball coach went out and put a bid in on behalf of the college to host the Division III Softball World Series. It's a 2-year agreement. Let me tell you why it's a 2-year agreement. Because after the first game, you don't want that mess back for an eternity. And so they're there. It's a 2-year agreement. I'm helping him out doing PA and doing some stuff to try to keep it running smooth. Everybody's volunteering and all that. And we talking to the NCAA and the people they send down, even for the Division III. Everybody that works in Indianapolis either has a law degree or has been a practicing lawyer.
Yep.
They don't want to get sued.
Yep.
That's why everybody could transfer now after 1 year or whenever for the first time without penalty, as it were. The NCAA doesn't want, they want two things in life. They don't want to pay the players. They don't want to get sued. And that's the mentality there in Indianapolis.
Yeah, now you take it out of their hands without even saying 50%, leave it up to state and local law enforcement. Whatever the governor's saying in your particular state, that's
exactly.
The decision. Yeah, so, yeah, it really makes it easier.
And look, it's great for ECU.
Yep.
It's a great thing for Pirate Nation.
No doubt. In fact, I'm very excited about this series coming up with USF. I think the Pirates can go down there, and it's going to be a tough series. And I think we have more talent, but just because, like Coach Doherty said, he said that earlier, talking about the 1984 UNC basketball team, but the very fact that we, being the Pirates, have more talent. However, that doesn't mean that going down to Tampa that you're going to easily get 4 games and you're going to easily win the regular season championship. I think the Pirates are still going to have to play very hard, and it's not a cakewalk, so to speak.
I was reading earlier on one of the message boards, and so this is not official information.
Well, now wait a minute, Kyle. You know damn well you're lying there. If it's on a message board, it's official.
Yeah, but according to the message board, South Florida's not going to be throwing their ace. They're going to save them for the conference tournament. They have no shot at this point of doing anything in conference play in terms of the regular. It makes sense. Makes complete sense. Actually, this series means nothing to them. So you might as well save them for the conference tournament.
Yeah, whatever they're doing down there. I mean, I don't think that's an underachieving program in a big way in my mind. I mean, that you talk about a hotbed of baseball, Tampa, Florida, just the whole state.
Yep.
They ought to be better than they are. It's a little perplexing, but I guess look. Pirates haven't played great on the road. I think if they come out knowing that what's on the line and knowing that they just have to win one more game at the very least than Tulane in this thing, they'll be okay. I think Cliff Godwin wants the regular season. I think the regular season locks them in without being on the bubble for one of these regional seeds. I don't think the only way I think they could, and I don't even know if they could do this because a lot would have to happen in front of them. I think to get it, and this is just one man's opinion, I think if they're going to get a super regional top 8 seed, a lot would have to happen in front of them, and they'd have to totally run the table, which they could do. But I just, Dave, you were on the call the other day. I wonder, this just seems like, and I was worried about this when we talked about 4-game series and we got to this time of year. A tired baseball team right now. And they're in the midst of, let's face it, a pennant race, for lack of a better term. And that's good and bad. Cliff's worried. If Cliff Godwin's saying his team's tired and needs rest, they're tired and they need rest. That's not speculative on our part. That's straight from the horse's mouth. The other part of that is these guys are given 100% because they're in a pennant race right now. They're in a championship race right now. It's not like they've run away with this thing. So they've still got a lot to play for. And look, guys, a great coach said to me once, pressure bursts pipes. There's a lot of pressure on both Tulane and ECU coming in this weekend. I think the Pirates will respond. We'll see how Tulane does. But look, Tulane had a hell of a win, scoring a lot of runs late against UCF to take that series. That was a big win for that program.
Yeah, you got to wonder what the approach will be if we take care of business in South Florida this weekend, wrap up the conference championship. What will the approach be going into the conference tournament if the baseball team is really that worn out and tired? Will we go all in and try to win the conference? Obviously, we're not going to tell the team, "Hey, let's go 2-Q." But
right,
you wonder how much emphasis we're going to put on the conference tournament if we wrap up the regular season title.
I think they'll put emphasis on winning it after the regular season. I think Cliff Godwin feels like this is the championship that you want to win because it's the first championship to win.
Absolutely.
And then you go get the other one. And look, here's the key. Weather permitting, you're going to play 1 game a day. That's, piece of cake compared to what they've been doing
exactly
most Fridays and what they're going to do tomorrow.
Yeah, and the good news is the one thing I've been happy with this past weekend, Patrick, is the young guys. Like Gen, for example. You got guys that are Bill. There's guys that are stepping up now that we desperately need. We've got older guys we need, but it's those younger guys, the guys that you would not recognize the name. You say, where did that guy come from? That's what's going to make the difference, not only for this weekend, but literally the rest of the way. Is with the regionals coming up starting June 4th.
Yeah. Obviously, what Beal and Gen did this past weekend in Game 4 of the series was pretty special stuff, and it's one of those things. Even though it was a competitive, close, if you will, game, what they were doing was keeping them at arm's length and beyond. I would add AJ Wilson to that group too, because you know what you're going to get out of Colmore. Now that you got Cooch Maynor in the pen, you know what you're going to get out of Cooch Maynor and what you can get out of him. Obviously what you're going to get out of Bridges. So, you've got some proven commodities there. I still think I'm anxious to see how much we're going to see Whisenhunt work this weekend and how much we may see him work in the tournament when it becomes his turn. We saw him a couple weeks ago, Sunday, live eyes, when Jacobs and I were on the ESPN Plus thing, and I thought he was effortless. Probably could have stayed in. I thought he was very effective. Now, the bullpen did a great job that day. That was an interesting day for the pen. But I think if you have a healthy Whisenhunt, and obviously Gavin Williams continues to be Gavin Williams and do Gavin Williams things in 2021, that's a formidable 1-2 at the front of your rotation. And if those guys, the Whisenhunt thing's interesting because how long are they going to let him go and how far can he go into a game? Because you're obviously, it goes back to what you're saying, Dave, you're going to need the pen. But this is just, there's also just little injuries like the injury with Moylan. That's a nuisance nagging injury that he'll never really be 100% from the rest of this season, one would think. That's not to say he won't play,
right?
But he's not going to be 100% with a bad hamstring. So I just wonder how much of that we have right now, within the program that we do know about and that we don't know about.
Wasn't through 4 this weekend. So he threw 3, then he threw 4. Really, if you look, most of our starters only throw about 5 or 6 innings with the bullpen we have. So If he can get up to 5 or 6 innings this weekend, then he's back where he needs to be.
Yeah, and even more than the innings, just as far as the number of pitches against Tulane, he went those 3 innings that you mentioned, 43 pitches. Against Cincinnati, 75 pitches. And the best news is Coach Godwin, when he met with the media, I guess it was Tuesday morning, he was just talking about, Carson didn't have any soreness, and so that's the best news.
Yeah, 75 pitches. I mean, that's you may get that in a 5-inning you start. So 5 or 6 innings is about most of our starters. Most of our starters go with the bullpen we have. So he's getting close.
By the way, but what are you doing, Bubba? Baking a cake? You chime in? You're here? You're gone? What's going on, man?
I was bathing my 6-year-old.
Oh my goodness! You're doing everything.
But
yes, he's everywhere.
Sticking with baseball, but shifting to the academic side of things for the Pirates. Obviously, this club's accomplished so much on the field, but in the classroom, 3.69 GPA for the team. All 39 players had 3.0 or higher, and 31 of the 39 had 3.5 or higher. Just remarkable job by Rebecca Wade, and then obviously on Coach Godwin, Palumbo, et cetera.
Yeah, those 2-2 weekends that we had were during exams. The weekends we didn't win the series when we split. So back to 3-1 even on the road, and then the 3-1 against Tulane at home, and 3-1 on the road to Cincinnati. And almost 4-0 at Cincinnati now that school's all done. So, academics are a real deal for this baseball program. And when they're in the middle of exams, it kind of takes something out of them.
Yeah, Coach. That's fantastic. And, boy, to go out to Wichita in the middle of exams,
yep,
is it's not exactly up the street. So, that's great stuff. I know it's a lot of pride that Coach Godwin and the program rightfully takes. And, it's kind of good right now because everybody can just concentrate on baseball. And I think that, again, it comes down to tank, how full's the tank, and, how nicked up our guys to the point it may, let's hope it doesn't, but hamper performance. And, how that bullpen – because you've had a chance to define roles. I mean, you've seen everything in these conference games. They're very regional-like in their length. So how everybody is going to respond to their roles, and can guys keep hitting? I mean, that's the thing. Somebody can go in a big slump, but I think it's very encouraging that Agnos is hitting the ball like he is down at third base right now.
Yeah, there's a question.
Go ahead, Dave.
I was just going to say with baseball right now, with the depth, you think of the grade point average, so you look at the community service, everything is clicking right for Cliff. And a great Pirate, I think Bubba told us, he said that if UNC or NC State offered him, what was it, Bubba, $2 million or more, that he wouldn't even consider it or something like that.
Yeah, he mentioned that in another radio show, the other day, and just talking.
Wait a minute. What other radio show? What other radio shows are you guys listed to? What are you talking about?
But he just talked about, he was asked, who he disliked the most. He said, I dislike everybody that we play. He said, I dislike all opponents equally, and took a very political stance there. But as far as North Carolina and NC State, he said nothing against those programs because they're tremendous jobs, and obviously have had a lot of success under Coach Fox and now Forbes, and then obviously Elliot Avin at NC State. But he would not give them any consideration, no matter how much money they offered him. And I'm sure those coaches would probably say the same thing about the East Carolina job as some of the locals in Rowan drive by with their loud trucks.
Speaking of NC State, and we talked about capacity limits being lifted, and hopefully we'll have 5,000 people in there for regional if everything goes as planned. We could see NC State, we could see South Carolina in our regional. And you talk about, we haven't even been able to have close to a full house. If you get the one projection had the Wolfpack and the Gamecocks as 2 and 3 seeds in Greenville. So, good God, I mean, 5,000 seats might not be enough. So, that'll be pretty electric. If whoever's in our regional, it'll be electric. But if you get the Wolfpack or the Gamecocks or both, and I really wouldn't want both, but if you get both, good Lord, the atmosphere in there.
I think whatever. Hey, look, at this point, Kyle, I think it could be Brand X University, whatever university, and the fans. Bubba and I were there at that Tulane series on Saturday. I was there for the first game, most of it, and I'll never forget every single pitch. It felt like a regional even for that game. Bubba, don't you think?
It was a huge series, too. Yeah.
I mean, because not only the series, but I feel like that was the first game I was able to attend.
So it was extra special because you were there?
Yeah, I literally a guy handed me a ticket. It's the only reason I got in.
They were fired up because Dave was there.
Wait a minute, were you doing loitering out? Were you loitering outside?
That's exactly what he was doing,
yes.
Patrick. That's exactly what he was doing.
Like holding up, I need a couple ducats. Were you that guy?
He went to meet Bubba to get soda from Bubba. Long story there. It was a fundraiser. And he was like, "Can I get a ticket? Can somebody give me a ticket?"
I didn't ask for it. The guy said, "Do you need a ticket?" And I said, "Yes." I took the ticket, walked in, thanked him very much. And there were two men. There were literally two men right beside me. Like, wait a minute, we need tickets too.
I should have asked you if you were lost with that red and white shirt you had on, looking like you were at NC State.
Whoa. Dave looked like he was going to Doak Field, Patrick.
Dave, I'm so disappointed in you, Dave. I thought you were purple and gold all the way, man. What up?
I am. Yeah, it was the best. Being a bachelor, it was the best shirt I had to wear to a picnic.
It was probably the cleanest shirt you had. Regardless, right. Your best shirt has been at the bottom of the pile a long time ago. You wore that a long time ago, back in the holidays or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Your best shirt was long gone. It was the only clean shirt
I had. Number one, I didn't think I was going to get in the game. Number two,
you go to a picnic.
I was trying to impress my sister, obviously.
Trying to impress your sister. All right.
Dave, you keep digging. Quit digging this. Quit digging here, Dave. Just change the subject.
All right.
Let's so here's
football.
Let me just say this. I want to roll this out here. I want to get this Deos's respected opinion. So D1 baseball has ECU as the number 12 overall seed, but they would obviously be the number 1 seed in Greenville. Here is who is in the regional in their projection. South Carolina, the number 2 seed, which scares me. Virginia, number 3, well coached as we know. Campbell, number 4, and we know they're just pesky and they have a thing for the Pirates. Now, baseball America has ECU as the number 11 overall seed. Here's who they have in the regional. In Greenville, Old Dominion, number 2, UNC, number 3, and then Campbell, number 4.
Yeah, take that Campbell number 4 and stick it up your ass. I do not want any part of Campbell as the 4th seed.
No.
But here's what I find interesting. Which matchup would you guys want? I almost want the Baseball America matchup. ODU, the 2nd seed. I mean, I know they're good, but I mean that was a long time. You're playing 2 teams, You're playing them in your building. 2 teams, I kind of like that a little better than I do the D1 baseball projection personally. But
pick your poison. I think they're both tough.
You can make both arguments. Sometimes it's hard to beat a team, quote unquote, twice. You get them both. We played them both. This will be our 3rd time against UNC, 2nd time against ODU. We split with UNC. ODU beat us, so we kind of owe ODU. They beat us here, so that's kind of appealing. Yeah. I don't like Campbell as the 4 seed, neither one of them. I'd rather avoid that altogether.
Right. That looks like that's going to happen. I think that's the case.
Maybe Charlotte will host too. Maybe they can send them out to Charlotte.
Baseball America's got Charlotte hosting in Gastonia, I guess, at the ballpark there, but they've got South Carolina, Liberty, and VCU.
Those are just projections, but let's send Campbell out to Charlotte, and then
you want Liberty?
Let's get I kind of like the Charlotte regional. Let's have Charlotte have one of our regionals, and then we'll take Charlotte. Right.
I think it comes down to a geography.
But here's the thing: you look at these projections; they're sending Pittsburgh out to Oregon. I mean, there's some crazy stuff going on. Fairfield is going out to Arizona in one of these projects, which is who the Pirates align with in D1 baseball. They align with Notre Dame in the Baseball America super regional projected. Everybody wins their regional, top seeds do. So I almost like the Baseball America one a little better. That D1 baseball one sounds tough.
Well, I'll tell you what. Historically, we've never beaten North Carolina in a regional or super regional. We've beaten South Carolina to win a regional, and we've beaten Virginia to win a regional.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know if that means anything. It really doesn't. But I don't know. Both are tough. Like I said, if you give me the choice of either one of those or that Charlotte regional, I believe I'd rather have the Charlotte regional. Just no Campbell, no UNC.
Right.
No South Carolina, no Virginia.
Guys, look, we're going to get stuck with something crazy,
Look, I think if Cliff Godwin right now would say he didn't care anytime, any place.
Sure. Well, you're going to have to beat good
split.
Teams. If you're going the goal is to make it to Omaha, and I would say the goal is to win the whole damn thing. And if you're going to make it to Omaha, and then once you get to Omaha, you want to win it, you're going to have to beat good teams. So what does it really matter? I mean, let's just play who's in front of us and beat them, and then move on to the Supers and win that, and finally make it to Omaha. But I wanted to ask you guys about something, Dave. You were going to switch the subject to football, but before that, if you guys checked all your emails, Pirate Club sent out a survey. First time they've done that in a while, and I wanted to get all y'all's thoughts on it. It asked some interesting questions, and I gave very candid answers.
No.
Yeah.
Not you.
Sure.
Not you.
And gave them some suggestions. I have a rather creative idea that I think could benefit the Pirate Club, that would take some thought and some effort, which that may be too much to ask, but I think it could be a good thing, and I put my idea in there. But did you guys see? Well, Dave, Bub, I think you guys said y'all filled it out, but Patrick, I don't know if you've seen it.
Not yet. No.
Here's the thing, Patrick. I tried really hard because I believe in Kyle, and I tried. We had John Gilbert on the show, and I put my reputation on the line and asked if Kyle would be a candidate for the Pirate Club director job, and unfortunately, he shot me down early. That's the only time John Gilbert has ever been controversial, I think, ever on our show. He didn't even give me a chance to plead my case for Kyle.
When I wouldn't hire myself as Pirate Club director. I would hire myself as AD though.
Oh my God,
I'd make some damn good hires. I promise you that. I would make Bubba a Pirate Club director.
I can see that.
That would be really good.
I can see that.
No, one of the things I did fill out the survey that Kyle is referencing, and I sent Dave, you and Kyle what I'd said, but I don't mind reading it on the air. I just said as a Pirate Club rep for many years and with my local chapters, and then just through communicating with a lot of former athletes in particular, I feel that there's often a disconnect. I understand that it can be difficult to track all alums and letter winners, but we need to make sure that we're making use of social media and leaving no stone unturned when it comes to contacting these folks and making them feel wanted and appreciated.
Do we have a letter winners chapter of the Pirate Club?
That's a good question. We'll have to ask Terry Gallagher.
They should have their own chapter. Obviously, be a part of their local chapter, but they should have their own chapter.
Yeah,
where they can get together.
I'm aware. Every football guy that I know that's in it, I've never heard them reference that. Those football guys all kind of have these email and chat and text groups.
Yep.
And subgroups, and so there's a lot of opinion. I mean, hell, you guys could do a whole show on football letter winners. Look, I'm just glad they've got acknowledgement that we've been to bowl games in the stadium. That there's championship acknowledgments. I think there's ways to showcase the heritage and lineage and history of the program. That would be nice to see, because there is space, particularly under the stadium on both sides, to do something.
Oh my God!
Yeah, along the lines of what you're saying, Patrick. You take a look at Clark LeClaire Stadium with what we do with Jarrell Cotton, Chad Tracy, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
We need to do that at Dowdy Ficklin.
Yeah.
And so many players that we talk to. Sure, they may not be telling the whole truth, but we take them at their word. And it can't be it can't be that everybody's making this up that they have not heard. We're not trying to throw anybody under the bus by any means.
I believe it.
But it's just frustrating because they want to be involved, and I will give Coach Houston and this staff a lot of credit. I've had several former players tell me that they've heard from Coach Houston and the staff this spring. Getting invited to campus, and when they're around, hey, let us know so we can let you attend practice and so on and so forth.
Well, I think it's great that he's done that he's reached out, that he's got people, as you say, Bubba, former players involved. He gets and understands the history because he's from the state, and he's from the other end of the state. He certainly knows ECU's football reputation and history. So I think he's done a fabulous job. I just think there's so many things that these guys are having to tackle, and especially post-COVID. And I think we're all sick of hearing that term, but anything to do with it. But that's really thrown a lot of things for a big loop. And it would be really interesting to see, can we, at what point, once things get back on track, do we maybe start to see some of that? Where's that on the checklist? Because there's a lot of other things that are very important on the checklist that have to get addressed with football and a lot of other things.
The Pirate Club was in shambles, in my opinion, way before COVID. I mean, what is membership down to? Like between 4,000 and 5,000. So I mean, look, how hard is this? Get somebody with a list. Go look at all Pirate Club members for the last 10 years. Who's in, who's out? Maybe even go back 15 years. You don't call dead people. Make sure they're still alive. If you're not a member anymore,
you have to have a voter ID, Kyle.
Yeah, well, do it now.
Make sure they have a voter ID.
Well, you do need an ID. You ought to have an ID to vote. I mean, you have to have ID to do every damn thing else. But I ain't that to the left. I take a list. Pirate Club members for the last 10 or 15 years. If you're a member now, give you a call. See if you're happy. Anything you need. If you're not a member, see what we can do to get you back. If you were a student Pirate Club member when you're here, give you a call. Ask you, why didn't you join the young grad program? Can we get you to join now? What are we doing to actively recruit new members? And what is there to appeal? I mean, I'm a Pirate Club member because I want to help fund scholarships. But some people don't have that mindset. They don't think that way. What do I get out of it? And what do you get out of it? You don't get a sorry, Bubba, therein to me lies the trick. And Bubba, you could probably speak to this with some more education. I think with the ECU fan base, the Eastern North Carolina population, where is the old IPTAY concept? I mean, where's the low level affordable? It's embarrassing. It's like Dave buying the raffle ticket at his sister's barbecue or whatever the hell he was. I mean, you're almost embarrassed not to buy the raffle ticket when you show up in the red and white shirt because you're there for that reason. And I get what you're saying. It's $100, but I mean, look, Kyle, there's been times $100 big deal in my life, and I got better places to put my $100 than there. So I mean, I get that, but it's that incentive. I mean, look, people who've been giving at high levels for years and years and years, they want parking, they want perks, it's a dance, it's a delicate dance, and who do you get in there that checks all the boxes to bring the energy, to bring the the ideas, to bring the new innovations, but then can also relate. Well, I if it's anybody, we would have had somebody a long time ago because they've had so many bodies in there. Somebody's better than nobody. Right? That's not Ryan's job.
Well, it's not, and I think you need somebody that can, but they got to be able to check boxes, and they got to be able to bring some. They got to be able to talk to the big dollar donors, but they got to be able to talk to people like us.
You need somebody who's got energy.
I tell you what, right now, pick up the phone right now, and we've got his phone number. We'll call him right now. I'm his agent. But George Kuntz, Dr. George Kuntz, get him in there. He can relate to everybody, including, speaking of former players, you don't think he could go in a room where guys have been in the NFL and say, look, guys, if you want an indoor practice facility, we're the football players, and we are going to donate X, and we're going to raise this amount of money just for the football players alone. That guy right there, I'm telling you, he would make an excellent Pirate Club director. And guess what? If they pick up the phone, he'll be on the plane as soon as he can. He's a local guy. He's a graduate. He's a football player. He has a PhD. I mean, he checks all the boxes. I really believe it.
I think Coons could do a good job. Like you said, he was a football player. After interviewing him long form, I think he's more suited to be the head of the Pirate Club than ever the athletic director here. He like you said, Eastern North Carolina native. To quote, he can identify with everybody. He grew up dirt poor, but obviously, is a rich guy now. To quote the great Dusty Rose, he's dined. He's dined on pork and beans. He's slept in dishes and dined on pork and beans, and screwed it up.
Ate with kings and queens.
With kings and queens, and slept in dishes and ate pork and beans. There we go. So he can identify with everybody. But look,
I think George would be great. When back in a former career of a radio place, George and I did a show together. George is fabulous. George has always been a good guy, and what a way for him to forge a reputation in Greenville, to either here or somewhere else one day be an AD. I think it'd be a fabulous idea to talk to George, or at least get some ideas from George. I think he'd be willing to help on some level.
And even if he was here just a handful of years, let's say that he came here 3 or 4 years, I can guarantee you number one thing we need right now is an indoor practice facility. We're going to have to find a way to pay off the Town Bank Tower, that's $500 million or whatever it is now. If you notice, the price tag keeps going up. It's like the
interest to cruise. It's like
the national
interest to cruise.
It's like the national debt. It just keeps going up. The price tag of that Town Bank Tower continues to go up and up and up. But anyway, we got to pay that off. But guess what? We're going to have to pay that off anyway, whether we're winning or losing. Why not go ahead and put it out there? Plant the seed, Patrick. I was talking to a church member tonight. If you're at a church, you need a new building, you have a building fund, go ahead and tell the people right now that we're going to have that indoor practice facility for Coach Houston. If College of Charleston, Liberty, there's all kind. No disrespect for them. I love those universities, but if they can have an indoor practice,
you mean Coastal Carolina, not College.
I'm sorry, I always get those mixed up. Coastal Carolina. Sorry, College of Charleston.
They're often confused. Yes, absolutely.
But anyway, if they can have a practice facility, then why can't we? I don't understand what the holdup. Go ahead, and it's not going to be that indoor practice facility. Oh, there it is. It's going to drop right down, right next to the regular practice facility. It takes time, and we have time. If we don't have anything else, we do have time.
Well, one of the questions in the Pirate Club survey was, what would you like to see Pirate Club funds go towards? And I put indoor practice facility amongst other things. But look, I want to address something Patrick said about to get incentives for people to join. What do you get? And for the folks that are maybe financially challenged. To me, a monthly subscription base. We all have Netflix. We all have Hulu.
Right.
We all have Amazon Prime. So if you put something on a monthly subscription as a Pirate Club membership, I think people are used to paying for stuff monthly. What do you get for it? So, my idea is something like an Amazon Prime membership. Well, let's get with ESPN. Let's see if we can get that ESPN Plus subscription that we all got to have now, including with that Pirate Club membership. Let's see if we can get partner with UBE or the Student Store or Fanatics.com and get free shipping on orders of East Carolina memorabilia for Pirate Club members. Let's start a message board that's exclusively for Pirate Club members, along with a video archive of our greatest games. And there's your video service. So you've done all these things that will appease to people whether they're going to go to the games or not. And now you appealed to somebody who lives in South Dakota. They've got several things they can gain by being a Pirate Club member. They're going to get that ESPN Plus membership. They're going to get free shipping for Pirate memorabilia, and they're going to get access to that premium message board and video archive. I mean, this is all things we could do that wouldn't take very much money.
And you all are going to love this: a quarterly event in Town Bank Tower. Let's have that as well for everybody. Why not?
Well, Kyle actually wants to have a seat up there. Did you know that, Patrick? Can you make?
I'm not getting into that. We got into that a year ago.
I have no interest in sitting in Town Bank Tower.
See, he has no interest in sitting in there.
Look, Dave, I can give them. The media. We have media credentials. I can go up there just like you. I have no interest in it. I don't need to be seen up there. I'm there to watch the Pirates play. Even last year, amongst the 7%, I was out there for 2 games.
7%er.
Yes, I was. I was out there for 2 games in the COVID crowd. So,
but guys, can you hear me? Okay, Dave.
We got you, Bubba.
Yeah. All right.
Where, are you on a CB now, Bubba? What's going on there? You vanished.
No, I don't.
You come back, and you sound like you're on CB radio. Have you gotten in one of those trucks that was going by earlier?
No,
ham radio.
My laptop was dying, so I didn't
Bubba, come on.
I didn't have my charger readily available, but I was hopping on my cell phone. But going back to the survey, and Kyle was kind of going down this road, I think the questions need to be more pointed. Finding out people's motivation for joining the Pirate Club. Exactly what are your reasons for donating. If you're someone that's an out of towner, what would inspire you to join? Some of the things that are not necessarily easy to talk about or easy to ask, but need to be asked. If you've joined the Pirate Club before, why did you stop joining? Was it just a lack of results, etc.? And all those sorts of things that cause someone to join or not join.
We just had somebody taken down from the Canes, and they were getting a beating laid on them by a Predators player, by the way. So that's there you go, a little playoff hockey, boys.
Yes,
I love some playoff hockey. The thing is, to me is interesting is this, and again, we could have so much time on all these topics, but and this isn't an ECU thing. This is across the country. It's so convenient now to sit back in your good lazy chair. You got your stock fridge. You don't have to wait in line to go to the bathroom or get up and deal with walking through people. It's so easy to watch a football game now at home on television. If you go, again, this isn't an ECU thing. But I mean, for the average family to load up the family truckster, you got to get there and let the kids tailgate. I mean, get there 3 hours before and do your tailgating. 3.5, 4 hour football game. Now, if the game's early enough, it's in vogue to let the kids play with their friends afterwards while you break the grill back out. And I mean, it's a day-long endeavor. And if you're not somebody who's in the Pirate Club, you got to find the parking, you got to pay for the parking. You got to, I mean, it's an endeavor to go to for just a family to go when it's easy to, go to the kids' Pop Warner game Saturday morning or soccer game Saturday morning. You get back home, do a little work around the house, 3:30, just put that TV on. You can watch. I mean, it's so those are challenges too. I mean, we're knocking the tower. The tower's great. So I mean, I understand why people want to sit in the tower. It's a nice. But how do you enhance that entire experience? How do you make that? And they have done some things to do that.
To the tower, enhance the tower, or the game.
No, just the whole game day experience. How do you enhance that?
I tell you one thing
for the family.
We need those cool ass lights that we can have a light show.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
I do like that, and I like and there's something very basic.
Winning.
Winning helps.
I know that helps.
Winning helps.
Here's another thing. The cell phone service, the wireless, the internet is horrible.
It gets better every year. Last year it was pretty good with 7%.
Oh yeah, 7% of the pop. Yeah,
you could stream a Netflix series last year during the game if you wanted to from there.
But PJ, you and I you're in the latter 90s, going to East Carolina. Yep. Obviously, I'm in the early 90s, so you're younger than me too. But back then, you didn't have all that stuff, so you didn't know what you were missing. But now
we didn't have all that other stuff that's out there now either. I mean, we didn't have the convenience. I mean, it's a big deal if you got a game on TV. I mean, boys, we remember the era where you had maybe a handful of games a weekend on television, and some of them weren't that great. So I mean, it's such a different way. So how do winning helps? Winning certainly helps, and I think winning will bring people back. But how do you and look, there's no.
Well, I think
one way to do this, but there's got to be a way to enhance the whole experience to get people who.
It has to be an event, right? It has to be an event.
It has to be an event. It has to be an event again. How do you make that an event? Because if you could draw that family that comes once a year now 2 more times, that's more money pumped into the university economy, to the city economy. I mean, there's benefits. So how do you do all that? That's the big question.
Well, Kyle, you made a good point. We can have all the pageantry and all that, but it comes down to everybody loves a winner. Everybody loves a winner. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, we're going bowling. PJ, we need maybe we can carpool, but we're going bowling somewhere. Don't you think that would be a great foursome? The 4 of us.
I don't.
Okay.
I think it'd be. a younger me would have said, "Oh yeah, that'll be fine." But no, look, there was a guy one time. We went up to Navy, and I agreed to ride with the guy Jonathan Swartz, who used to write for the Washington paper. Swartz was a madman. He was a nut, and I love Swartz. But we got closer and closer to the time I was going to ride up there with him, and I saw where some kind of hurricane was coming through D.C. or something like that, and I just thought, this guy's a nut. I don't know if I want to ride. So I actually did like an end around and I ghosted Swartz and rode with Denny O'Brien, who I knew was like a calm, white bread milk toast driver, 10-2 on the steering wheel. And we got there and went back in one piece. But I couldn't imagine what it would be like riding with you guys. You'd have to drive, Dave. You or Bubba. Kyle behind the wheel. Oh my God. I don't know if I can handle it.
Well, Patrick, look, here, I'm gonna let you in on a little secret.
Yes.
I'm legally blind. You don't want me behind the whell, dude.
Well, no, hell no, not now. Yeah, I definitely don't want you behind there now. I didn't realize that.
We would all die. I mean, that's the biggest understatement of the year. You don't want me behind.
I didn't know that. I'm sorry. I didn't know that. I wasn't aware. I would imagine. All right, let's say you were 2020 though. You're an excitable chap. And look, if you are legally blind, you're still going to tell everybody else how to drive. So, I mean, this whole thing is just,
I am excited. I'm pretty laid back on the road. I don't get excited. Pretty laid back. Let things kind of flow. I actually don't like people that get road rage. Traffic's out there. People get mad at other people for being on
I'm
the road.
The worst.
Well, you're on the road too, asshole. I mean,
yes, exactly. I'm the worst. I'm the worst road rager in the history of road ragers. And I've got
I wouldn't be telling you to chill the fuck out.
You would.
I mean to drop the F-bomb, Dave.
Whoa! Pirate Sports Objective After Dark, boys and girls.
Yes, it is.
Jeez almighty.
Hey, so I've got to get to yeah, exactly. So Patrick, so I'm gonna go with bowling. I'm gonna say we're gonna be 7-5. We're trying to do cliff notes now. Get your thoughts on football really quickly, and the same thing with basketball. I wanted to touch on that before we go.
Football, I think you're going to see a big difference in this team because guess what? You've had guys that are having for the first time ever spring football. C.J. Johnson. I'm anxious to see how Holt Nailers is going to get used. You're going to bring in. Look, there's still some guys who may be brought in during the summer. I shouldn't say may. There will be some guys brought in over the summer who will be big contributors. The running game is going to be one of the best in the conference, perhaps one of the best in the country. It depends on if the offensive line has some health to it and some, the thing that I drew from the spring is up front, guys looked the part for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, and we had a banged up offensive line during the spring also.
We did, but guys up front on both sides of the ball looked the part. The guys that were out there,
they're American players now.
Yeah, we got depth for the first time in a long time. I think we have a chance to have a pretty good football team and. To your point about adding, to your point about adding players.
I'm thinking about what you're saying.
What do you like?
Just what you said. I'm sorry.
About wrecking?
No. You cracked me up. You cracked me up.
I didn't. I forgot.
This whole crew cracks me up.
Forgot we were doing a podcast, but
it's a podcast. But I mean, these three.
Well, sure, you can drop it, but
right.
But
this is great.
But we do have depth, and to your point about adding players, we got a defensive. The receiver seems to be getting all the attention. The kid from Virginia Tech, they may be coming in, but the one that interests me, we got a defensive lineman. He's a good blitz end from Missouri State FCS school. Mm-hmm. He has us on his short list. So be interested if we get him, and also I would expect there to be even more FCS transfers as kids get, they get that COVID year of eligibility.
Oh, yeah.
So you got guys who just finished up their FCS season this spring that now have, we're seniors. But now they get one more year of eligibility, and you can transfer without sitting out. So I think you're going to have a lot of guys that are experienced FCS seniors transferring to FBS schools to play 1 year of FBS. So I wouldn't be surprised to see us add defensive lineman or offensive lineman or two from the FCS level with a lot lot of experience.
Well, I think you may bring in some other guys too that are not FCS guys necessarily, but are FBS. But your point taken. I think you're going to see some bodies added. This is going to look like a football team. It's a hell of a schedule, Dave. Since we're throwing out words like sailors in from port here, that's a heck fire of a schedule. And
7-5, baby. Write it down. 7-5.
I like your optimism, but 6-6 seems.
I think
Marshall is hemorrhaging players. Their best offensive lineman just entered the transfer portal.
That's true.
I think the key is going to be
Southern.
I think the key is going to be the first two games. Can we win one of those first two against Appalachian or South Carolina? If we can win one of those two, then win up at Marshall, and that's not a gimme, but I'm just saying, new coaching staff, they're hemorrhaging players.
Right.
Win up at Marshall, and you get Charleston Southern, and we have a 3-1 September. I think we'll be in good shape to make a
No, I agree with you there. I think 2-2 is a little more hopeful and possibly realistic. And boy, App's going to be a tough putt in Charlotte. I'm excited about that game, as I'm sure you guys are, and can't wait to start getting that in focus. That's going to be a fun trip. That might be our trip we take, guys. There you go. Sure, it's not too far. I could just meet you guys there, but I mean, we could do that.
That would be fun. That would be a lot of fun.
I think we do a live podcast in Charlotte the night
Let's
before.
do it.
I think that'd be awesome. But I'll tell you, the South Carolina thing's interesting because what are they going to be? Where are they going to be in their transition? I mean, are they going to be fired up, or are they going to still be trying to find themselves? I think that'll be fascinating. Marshall, as you say, that coaching change, boy, familiarity breeds contempt, and that's all that
they thought they were going to get Byron Leftwich.
That's part of it too. They thought all he did was, offensive coordinator, Super Bowl winner. So that kind of threw a monkey wrench into those plans. It threw a little bit of some disaster into that planning, the best laid plans. But even if they had won the Super Bowl, you're going to leave being the offensive coordinator for Brady.
Not when you
go back to your
Brady.
alma mater.
Not when you got Tom Brady.
I mean that's probably a move down the road. You know what I mean? That's probably a move down the road. But
no question, we lost Patrick there for a second. He'll be back, but no question about that with the Pirates. It's going to be a great season, guys. And I was going to bring up also basketball, because basketball is something that's on everybody's mind, I'm sure. Certainly with the fact there's a couple weeks left. We're going to bring PJ back in. Want to bring that up to him because we're running way over than we anticipated.
We're working on a 2-hour podcast.
Yeah. Hey, PJ. So we're
did someone swear again? That's all I want to know.
Yes, it's been the most we've ever had. The FCC's coming after us. Well, let's talk basketball.
Oh, Kyle, you're killing me tonight. That was good, though. It was funny.
So we had a source to tell us, probably you have too, that Joe's coming back. Oh, you're a big basketball fan, so you like Joe Dooley coming back June 1 and beyond?
If he recruits, yeah. I mean, look, I'm sure this has been discussed on here. That's been a question asked from people all around the country. There's lots of interesting things floating around right now. But I mean, from what I understand, Dooley's not going anywhere right now. It's probably a little bit of a tense time, I think would be a fair way to describe it. And that's what I've kind of been told.
Sure.
But I mean, he's the guy right now. I don't care who you are. To me, basketball was the sport that had the biggest negative impact as a whole, across the board, from this COVID deal. That was the sport that suffered the most. I mean, let's think about it. Teams that were supposed to be really, really good were not. Duke, UNC. I mean, they were okay, but I mean, they weren't as great as they were expected to be. There's other teams that were just not real good this year that were expected to be better. There's probably some in the American that are not leaping to mind right now. ECU wasn't expected to be great, but they got off
Cincinnati.
So obviously there was a lot more going on there than we realized. But Cincinnati was young, and I really liked the pieces they had coming back. Now I don't know how many of them are going to be back, but I like those pieces. The coaching situation there, boy, that was crazy, wasn't it? But I just think, guys, that this before Christmas, this was a pretty cohesive little basketball team. I mean, they played defense.
7-1, right?
Yeah, I mean, they weren't great on offense, but I mean, they'd won some games on the road. They'd beaten some teams that historically they'd not beaten. I realize it wasn't Murderers Row, but this is an interesting little basketball team. Played people tough in conference. I just think the COVID pauses, especially the last one of the year, were just killer.
26 days, man. 26 days
killer.
without playing a game.
Yeah, not to cut you off, PJ, but as far as that non-conference schedule, no, it wasn't Murderers Row, but it was the people that we typically lose to. So that was my response when people would say, "Well, look who we beat." Well, I thought, well, Radford's had a pretty good basketball team, even though it wasn't the same one that had accomplished some of those things. And Lord knows, and we won at Charlotte for the first time since 1983.
And see, that was a good win because, they played defense. That's a game. The team at the end of the year would have lost there. Team at the beginning of the year obviously won there. I just think America's a tough league. And I just, next year you're going to have a team that's in a little bit of flux because this roster is going to be hodgepodge again. I think people got their panties in a wad over Gardner leaving, but I mean that had been once it was determined this was not going to count against you this year. I think that was fait accompli with him. I mean I'm not knocking Jaden Gardner, but I think he wanted to be romanced a little bit. He wanted to be recruited because he wasn't in high school. Can't blame him.
Yeah, not only that, PJ, but I told a church member tonight, a ECU fan, no disrespect for him, but we need 3-point shooting desperately. That's what we need. And Jaden Gardner doesn't get you 3-point shooting to win games.
Well, he got the most out of his ability, but I mean, he was the best player that you could see to watch that, couldn't dribble, couldn't guard anybody, couldn't jump, but he was great. I'm stealing that line from a noted former coach and popular Greenvillian, but I mean, really, he got the most out of his ability, but I don't know. I just, if Joe could stick some of these guys that apparently they're in on right now, and I know that sounds, that's the old battle cry, and here we go again, but, they might be able to put something together that's pretty good. We'll see. I do believe this. I think some things in that program are going to look a little different in the fall than they look right now beyond the roster, but I don't think that has anything. I don't think that'll be the head coaching position. I'd be shocked if it were.
Yeah,
what do you mean by that? But Rock is gone.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard that as well, but I mean, right now he's still on the job, and from what I understand, still very involved in bringing some guys in.
Well, we're hearing he's going to A&M, but
I mean, look, I would be lying if I said I've not been told the same things, but again, right now I was told as of today, he's still in on trying to get. Now, is there a certain time he's leaving, or is it a next fiscal year thing? Your guess is as good as mine, but I've been hearing that now for a couple of weeks, and as far as I know, the guy, as I said, I was told today, he's still recruiting for ECU, and maybe that's maybe I have bad intel. I don't know, but yeah.
When Gardner left, I made the statement up here on this podcast several times. I said, this is bad for Dooley because Dooley's going into year 4 of his contract, and you can't leave a guy on with 1 year of his contract. Now you either got to, after this coming season, you either got to extend him or you got to fire him. And, now, we come to find out that him and the old AD ain't buddy. So that really puts Coach in a tough situation, and that's why I think he was open to the Kansas thing. That's why I think it's still out there on the table and still being discussed.
No,
he's not stupid. He knows that if he doesn't put a winning product on the court this coming up winter, that he's probably going to be let go with 1 year left.
Let me ask you a question. All right, if you fire Dooley right now as AD of Gilbert,
fire him? I don't think that's going to happen.
No. They can't do that. They can't.
No. I know that. I'm not advocating for that or that's going to happen. But who are you going to get? Like you have Dooley has. Who would you get?
Are you saying right now or at the end of next year?
No. In general, I mean, just what coach would you want?
Matt Doherty. Reunite him with Star Hill Farms. Get him that house there that he's always been buying. He got hired in July before. I'm kidding.
I'm not advocating that anyone fire Coach Dooley. I'm just telling you what I think is going to happen. And if you ask me who I would hire, just based off the top of my head, if Dooley was let go at the end of next year, depending on how the season plays out, because of a similar situation, he had success for Presbyterian. He won the Sun Belt his second year at App State, at least the tournament. It's a football school with no basketball tradition. I'd probably go after App State's head coach, but that's an easy answer to a tough question.
Well, look, Joe Dooley's still the coach. Think he's going to be the coach.
I think so, and I hope so.
And I hope so too. I think Joe's good basketball mind. It's a tough place to win, tough conference to win in, and I think after this year, like I said, I think COVID has hit basketball in ways that nobody could imagine. And if you've gotten in there and taken advantage of this transfer portal and embraced it, I think you've made your team better. But there are going to be a lot of pretty decent players that are going to be looking for places to play here in a couple months. So, you know, I'm confident, optimistic, perhaps a cockeyed optimist, that we can still, from what I understand, some of the players that are still available that could come in out of the portal, that we've got some guys that are, you know, representative basketball players. Now, can you get, no matter who you have, can you get that roster to gel? That's going to be the key, and I think that's going to be a little easier to do this year than it was last year.
All right, no doubt. And Bubba, I know we're way over time, my friend. But before we let you go, PJ, who do you have coming up tomorrow? Do you have the show ready for on 94.3 The Game? You can tell us. Can you give us any breaking news?
Pirate baseball preempts the Patrick Johnson show. I will be back on Monday with Cliff Godwin, and we'll have our podcast drop with Coach Godwin Monday morning on 94.3 The Game inside the ECU clubhouse with Cliff Godwin. So. Looking forward to that. So 4-day weekend for me ahead of the big holiday weekend. So that's
down Highway 70 to Atlantic Beach.
No, I'm I don't know what we're doing. We got some things we need to do. I don't know what we're doing yet. I had a crazy stretch of a lot of work April and May, and so I'm really still trying to play a little bit of catch up with everything. Last week was really tough, and I was supposed to come on last week, but it just was kind of too tough to come on last week with all the catch up in my normal day-to-day I was doing to get back on track. So we'll see. I'm going to gear up for this road trip where Kyle's going to be the co-pilot as he and I drive to Charlotte together.
Sure.
For the Labor Day showdown against Appalachian State with you two bozos, Bubba and Dave in the back.
Well, actually, we'll film it.
Hey,
I think it'll be great. We'll go to Charlotte.
And PJ, we'll have to mount a camera there on the dash to catch this dialogue between you and Kyle, etc.
Kyle and I are Lenore County homies. I mean, we'll get along fine.
Hey, man, I live in Greene County.
As I said, Kyle and I are Greene County homies. We'll get along fine.
Spent a lot of time in Lenore County, obviously. Certainly know Kinston and LaGrange very well. But we'd be road warriors.
I think it'd be great.
I'm Animal. You're Hawk.
I think that'd be great. I think that'd be the. You talk about a vintage road trip. That would be something. My God.
Absolutely. Yeah.
As long as we don't run the heat in the car, I'm fine. As long as we got the AC pumping.
Hey, look, it's August.
Down.
Good God, if you turn on the heater in August, it'd be like roasting two pigs.
I had a car that the AC wasn't working, and then eventually it got to the point where it was blowing out warm air in August, and that was tough. But no, this was fun. I don't know if I don't know other than this profanity-laced tirade. But other than that, I don't know if there's any new ground broken here tonight, but I frankly don't care.
That's right. We enjoyed it, PJ. Enjoy your long weekend, my friend. Enjoy you, and everybody can hear you on 94.3 The Game, 5 o'clock with the P-Man. And also, how can people find you on social media and the like?
Just look down here, right there.
There you go.
At P-Man on Air is where you can go and tweet things at me. And I think it's the same thing for the Gram, doing it for the Gram Insta. And, Facebook, I'm there. So just come on by and say hello and follow us on the station as well, right? Hang on. We're just getting foolish at this point. There.
All right, man.
And do that. It's good to talk to you guys.
All right, road trip.
I'll consider it. Kyle, good to talk to you, buddy.
Absolutely.
Dave, you look great. I don't know what you're doing, but keep it up.
All right.
And Bubba, you got to come out of that shell, man. I don't know what we got to do to get you to talk more, but
no, I'm out of the shell.
Well, this was fun, boys.
He's a naked turtle.
Well,
the sports objective after dark continues.
Exactly.
This has been something. It's nice to talk to you guys, and I hope we'll get to do it again soon.
All right, man.
See you guys.
PJ. Good night, buddy. All right. Our extra long, you get a lot of money. You get a lot of value for that. We're in a nice segue here, guys. We're in extra innings for this regular show, but we'll have extra innings, right, Bubba, on Sunday night?
Yeah,
Saturday
we
or
will.
Sunday?
We'll catch up with Corey. Corey Glover will join us from either Tampa or Clearwater, wherever he is then. My guess will be Clearwater since the series will wrap up in Tampa on Saturday night or afternoon. I can't recall what time that ball game is. But Corey will join us, and potentially Trent Britt of Next Level Training Center. Really enjoyed when we had Trent on a time or two earlier in the season. Has some excellent insight and perspective from someone who trains these guys, works with them, and then also had his own son play Division I baseball at Liberty. Would have loved for him to have the opportunity to wear the purple and gold because I'm sure it was a dream of his. I know he was at the regional back in 2019 and loves the Pirates, but he had to do what was in his best interest, and that was go where he was most wanted, and that was Liberty University. But there were some other things we wanted to touch on tonight, and we'll save those for our next show. On the men's and women's basketball recruiting front, I did want to mention that Marlon Leston out of Canada, Javon Small from Arizona, and then also Jaquan Scott from down in Florida. All three of those guys have signed. We're still waiting on the official release from East Carolina, but Stephen Igo has been reporting that those guys have inked their NLI. So that's great news. I'm pointing toward what Coach Dooley has going on and him remaining with East Carolina moving forward. And then, Kim McNeil on the women's side of things, bringing in four ladies from the transfer portal, a couple from Clemson, Danae McNeil and also Tyler Bennett. And then she had Deja Green, a 5'6" point guard, grad transfer, a two-time grad transfer. She played her first 3 years and graduated from Wofford, and then left Wofford to go to Virginia Tech. Things didn't work out there. But, you glance at those Virginia Tech numbers, it's easy to shrug it off and say, well, this isn't that big of a deal. Well, during her time at Wofford, she was third all time in career assists, 434, averaging nearly 5 a game, and scored in excess of 30 points twice. So don't let those Virginia Tech numbers fool you. We're getting a quality player, in Deja Green, and I believe I'm saying that name correctly. And then you also have, last but not least, from Kansas, originally from Plymouth, North Carolina, Brittany Franklin. She's 6'5". And then Tyler Bennett from Clemson was 6'4", and she's second all time in blocked shots at Clemson with something like 175 or 180. So maybe she and potentially Brittany Franklin, they'll provide something, in terms of defense, some blocking and altering some shots, pulling down some rebounds, and anything that they bring on the offensive end, I'm sure will be welcomed. But maybe they'll be kind of like Andre Washington was when he came in for the men under Coach Lebo, transferring over from Wake Forest.
No doubt, guys. But by the way, those ball games you were talking about, Bubba, as far as tomorrow for Thursday, it'll be 2:00 is the beginning. That Thursday game, the start of the doubleheader, and then 45 minutes after game one, we'll have the second game of the doubleheader for Thursday. Then Friday's game is at 3:00. Saturday's game is a 1:00 game, Bubba, all on ESPN Plus, and of course our good friends at 94.3 The Game. I know Corey Glover, that'll be 1:45 tomorrow, right, Bubba, for he and Coach O?
I believe that's correct. And we were going to have on deck our weekly ECU baseball preview. And we had it lined up, and then unfortunately USF head coach Billy Mole had something come up this afternoon. Was really looking forward to that conversation with him. Had it set up for I guess about 3:30, but he really apologized through his SID, saying that he had an unavoidable athletics meeting that came up. But we look forward to having him on the show down the road, and it's a tremendous series. We've put ourselves in position. Now we just got to go out,
execute,
and take care of business down in Tampa.
No doubt. Kyle, do you have anything before we go?
I was actually going to ask what time first pitch was. You took care of it. You must have read my mind. So let's go win a conference championship.
All right, sounds good. Again, extra innings on. We'll figure that out, I guess, Saturday or probably Sunday in Clearwater. And Kyle does his usual bump, and he's gone. But anyway,
Kyle loves maintaining the integrity of the show.
Exactly. All right, guys. appreciate Matt Doherty with his great book. Go get that on Amazon.com or the like. And of course, Patrick Johnson, P-Man, will be back on Monday on 94.3 The Game. Enjoy the ball games. We'll see you this weekend. Extra innings right here on the Sports Objective. Good night, everybody. Go Pirates.
Yo, what's going on, y'all? This is Udon Cheek, assistant track and field coach at East Carolina University. You are plugged into the Sports Objective podcast. If you are a fan, you are plugged into the right place. And if you're really a fan, you will share that link. My heart is purple and gold. I'm a pirate down to my soul. And I don't back down, not at all. Find out when the cannons explode. Boom!